Jim Ratcliffe was in Manchester this week for the first time since acquiring 25% of Manchester United. While he waits for that to be ratified officially by the Premier League and for the fit and proper owners test to be completed, he's wasting no time. Meetings are happening at Old Trafford. He'll be meeting Erik ten Hag later this week at Carrington. I'm going to run through everything that we know about Ratcliffe's meetings and what he's been doing at Manchester United this week. You can let me know what you think about this in the comments, as you always do. But, of course, the 25% takeover was announced on Christmas Eve. And as you can see at the bottom there, it's subject to approval from the Premier League. And since then, Dave Brailsford was, of course, at Old Trafford for Manchester United's game against Aston Villa on Boxing Day. Sat there alongside Fergie and alongside Albert Morgan. I met Albert Morgan once. Really nice guy. Anyway, fun fact. That was Dave Brailsford. He's been there sort of working behind the scenes for a while now at Old Trafford. And this is a photo there of Jim Ratcliffe at Old Trafford yesterday. And I'll run through all the details here, after some meetings took place. One thing I want to sort of like zoom in on, like, look at this. I don't know why this got me. Anyone else remember that that photo of, I think it was Fergie after like a Champions League final, just sitting there like white-knuckled, angry. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the owners of Manchester United, Ratcliffe. Maybe you're going to get a little bit of that yourself. But anyway, the first thing I want to say here is, by the time that this is ratified, okay, and so roughly it should be somewhere in the region of 6 weeks from now, is what is expected, which of course can change, everything has changed throughout this whole process. Jim Ratcliffe would likely have spent more time at Old Trafford before that is even actually ratified than the Glazers have done in 18 years. And by the time that is ratified and his $200 million investment from his own pocket goes in, that's $200 million more than the Glazers have put in 18 years. Now, that's a start, and it has to be a start. Now, I'm going to run through what happened in these meetings. This is from The Athletic, saying that Brailsford was with Ratcliffe in Manchester on Tuesday, having been at Old Trafford, of course, on Boxing Day. And Brailsford has had previous meetings with, as you can see there, John Murtough and Patrick Stewart. Now, John Murtough, I fully expect to follow Richard Arnold out the door. It feels like Richard Arnold sort of ran away before he got shoved out. But Richard Arnold was never going to be part of this new regime, and I don't think John Murtough is either. But that is still sort of an ongoing process. Patrick Stewart has been brought in. He was the chief legal counsel, I believe. He's come in as a temporary and interim CEO until we likely get the official announcement of Jean-Claude Blanc. Jean-Claude Blanc was there. I think that photo's from back in March when Blanc and Brailsford were with Ratcliffe when they went to Old Trafford to meet with Richard Arnold and to hear Manchester United's presentation in the early stages of the actual takeover process. But Blanc has been seen since, and I'm looking forward to all the structures happening behind the scenes. But let's run into some more actual details here. And this is from the Telegraph, okay? Jim Ratcliffe is expected to meet Erik ten Hag and Manchester United's players a little bit later this week. Ratcliffe held the first of what are expected to be a number of informal meetings at Old Trafford on Tuesday. Ratcliffe is expected to spend a few days at the club this week, when he is also due to meet, as I said, with ten Hag and United's players at Carrington. Going down here, Ineos want to take as many soundings as possible. Basically, what Ineos are doing here is kind of not really wasting much time. Although it's not ratified by the Premier League, so technically he doesn't have control of the football operations. Any decision that can be made right now has to go through Ineos, apart from anything that was pre-existing and agreed before the takeover took place. So the Glazers can't spring something random on Jim Ratcliffe and on Ineos without it going through their own diligence and their own processes. But the players, they're going to get to meet Ratcliffe probably tomorrow. Well, it may well have been today. The players returned, punching my mic there. The players returned to Carrington today after a day off. There's Martinez. Looking forward to Martinez and seeing him back in the squad. And of course, Casemiro too. We need both of these players back in this team. But anyway, the meeting that has to happen this week, and this is, I think for a lot of people, is a significant one. It's only going to be an informal conversation to start with. Ten Hag has sort of pushed back these meetings simply because he wanted to get the games out of the way. But now that the games are out of the way, this meeting's going to be crucial. I can't say with any sort of like hand on chest confidence that Erik ten Hag is 100% going to be our manager come the start of next season. I can't say with any massive confidence that Ten Hag's going to be our manager at the end of this season. Whether he is, it's pretty much up to Erik ten Hag right now. If you prove the second half of this season can be almost like a new season with the signings and the players returning, then let's have a conversation. Now, there's been a lot of people reacting to this quite negatively, but the idea that Erik ten Hag still wants to retain some sort of control and involvement with transfers. That was from ESPN and from Rob Dawson. And also, if you scroll down here in James Ducker's article, the same thing is being said here. Ten Hag had that joint veto on transfers, and he wants to make sure that remains the case. This is kind of like standard practice. Why would a manager not have the ability to have a veto on a transfer? Would you rather have like a Chelsea system where the owners just come in and just buy who they want? No particular reason. What should be happening, and I explained this in the live show this morning, I'll explain it now quickly. Ten Hag should be involved in the first 10% of a transfer and the last 10% of a transfer. I've made this up in my head, but it kind of makes sense. The first 10% is where he sort of goes to maybe Dan Ashworth, maybe Paul Mitchell, whoever it is, our new director of sport and our new head of recruitment, and says to them, look, this is the football I want to play. Okay, and these are the players I think we need to sign. It's then down to our recruitment team to do the 80% of the work in the middle. Find those players. Maybe find some gems that nobody knows about. And then you go back to Erik ten Hag. And at that point, a manager should have the ability to decide, maybe not completely and totally, but should have an involvement at that point as to whether those players are signed or not. But it has to be a full process. It can't be Ten Hag identifying the players at the start of it and saying, go out and sign them, which is what's happened so far, which is why our transfer policy really has been so, let's be honest, terrible. And how many transfers it's really not worked under Erik ten Hag. That's simply because he's getting too much control. Man United don't have the staff to actually do the work properly. And that is why I'm so excited about what can happen next with Dan Ashworth, with Paul Mitchell, and what comes next. But Jim Ratcliffe, this is the photo from back in March when, as I said, you can see Brailsford there in the background. That's when he visited back in March. And Ratcliffe this week has now spent some time at Old Trafford, meeting with staff at Old Trafford. He's been there with Patrick Stewart. I think, is it Colette Roche as well, the chief operating officer. These are sorts of informal meetings, meeting the staff there. But later this week is when the big meeting is going to be taking place. That's with Casemiro. Maybe meet Casemiro too, not really sure. But he's going to be meeting with Ten Hag at Carrington. That'll be the first face-to-face conversation that Ratcliffe has with our manager. Now, it's not going to be at that point that a decision is going to be made on his future. I'm not even sure it's going to be a properly formal conversation. It might just be the introductions. But despite the fact that we're still going to have to wait somewhere in the region of 6 to 8 weeks. Probably at this point now, it should be 4 to 6 weeks until this is completed. And Ratcliffe is there on the board. I believe it's going to be Brailsford and Blanc who join the football board. I think it's a little bit complicated. I won't actually say that bit right now. But it's good to see. This is the start of it, right? And it's a step in the right direction. There's so many people that seem to be, I don't know, trying to have a go at me for trying to see a positive in this. And I say to those people, I said, you do you. Honestly, you do you. I'm doing me on United People's TV, and I will carry on how I see fit. Jim Ratcliffe being in Manchester, he's basically putting a full week into it, really. Is more than the Glazers have ever fucking done in about 18 years. 25%, is that enough? No, but is that better than 0%? Yep. Is it a step in the right direction? You're damn right it is. If that can be followed on by the likes of those two leaving, those two joining, those two following, and Manchester United getting this full structure in place, then great. I'm interested to see what developments, or if we do find out any more information really, on what this meeting, what happens in it. between Ten Hag and Ratcliffe. I'll bring you that information as soon as I have it. You can let me know what you think in the comments below. But as I said, this is what we know so far. Ratcliffe is wasting no time with Brailsford. They're getting to know everybody at Manchester United in terms of the staff at the club, in terms of the staff at Carrington. That's had later this week, and the players too. Change is coming. This is just the beginning of it.